Never start a war with someone who builds bridges. The first time I realized the Homeowners Association had declared war on me, I was ankle-deep in Chili Creek water, holding a paper bag of groceries, staring at the remains of what used to be my bridge. It wasn't a mess. It wasn't damaged. It was gone, obliterated. All that remained were splintered planks, a few twisted steel bars, and the distinct silence of deliberate destruction. On the far side of the creek stood my neighbor, Denise Chamberlain, president of the Rosewalk Heights HOA, connoisseur of midday wine, and self-declared guardian of community standards. She sipped from a stemmed glass with the smug air of someone watching a parade thrown in their honor. It was unsafe, she called across the water, her voice as falsely sweet as aspartame. I blinked. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I knew something she didn't. She had just stepped into a fight she was painfully unprepared for. And I had just stepped into my villain origin story. To understand how we got here, you need to know two things. 1. I don't belong to the HOA. I live on a piece of land that technically exists just outside their jurisdiction, a remnant parcel I inherited from my Uncle Calvin. He believed in two things: fine bourbon and never letting bureaucrats tell you what color your shutters can be. 2. I'm a retired civil engineer. I spent 30 years building bridges all across the state, and when I settled on this land, I built one more, a modest but solid timber and concrete bridge over the creek that separated my front porch from the pristine, aggressively monitored neighborhood behind it. I did it right, permits, inspections, the whole 9 yards. And then, just for a little spice, I added a hand-carved sign at the entrance: private, no HOA access. That sign may as well have been a red flag waved in front of a bull. Denise Chamberlain had made it her mission to find something, anything she could hold over me. She once knocked on my door to inform me that my mailbox didn't match the community aesthetic. I asked her which community she meant, since my property was, quite literally, not hers. She didn't appreciate the correction. Still, I figured that would be the end of it. I was wrong. One Tuesday, I drove to the next town over to buy a new chainsaw and swing by my favorite bakery, the kind of place where the bread smell hits you a block away. By the time I got home, the bridge was gone. Not damaged, not crumbling, gone, as if it had never existed. There were tire tracks from heavy machinery, and a laminated notice duct taped to a wooden post: unsafe structure removed for community safety, HOA Code 14.2. My hands didn't shake from fear. They trembled from the kind of rage that simmers quietly under a laugh. They had no jurisdiction, no warning, no right. Denise stood across the creek, smirking like she'd just won a gold medal in petty tyranny. "You should have followed the rules," she said, swirling her wine. I smiled back. "You should have read the deed." That night, lit by flashlight because I couldn't reach my house without makeshift planks, I pulled out my uncle's old records. Calvin had been meticulous: maps, contracts, easement documents, even receipts for fence posts. And there it was, buried in a folder labeled easement, 1954, a legal clause giving the landowner, now me, full rights to a section of what had become the HOA's only access road. They'd paved their community's future on ground that didn't belong to them. And now it belonged to me. I didn't rebuild the bridge. Instead, I filed paperwork. I created a shell company called Old Oak Reserve LLC, named after my uncle's favorite bourbon, and purchased full title to the road, exploiting a legal gray area no one had noticed since the original developer went bankrupt 20 years ago. 3 days later, while the HOA held a wine and cheese safety celebration, I was standing beside a newly installed gate at the road's entrance, watching a welding crew bolt in a keypad and mount a camera. The next morning, the neighborhood woke up to a news sign: private road, $20 daily access, no HOA discounts, card only. I drank coffee by the gate that morning, watching traffic stack up like red Christmas lights. When Denise's luxury SUV screeched to a halt, her jaw clenched so hard I could feel the tension through the glass. She barked at the keypad, pounded her fist on the horn, and finally stomped over in heels that stabbed the gravel like daggers. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, thrusting her phone in my face. I calmly handed her a copy of the purchase documents. "It's not your road anymore." She scanned the papers like they were written in Aramaic. "This is extortion," she hissed. I shrugged. "This is capitalism." Word spread faster than a grease fire. By noon, I had a line of residents at the gate, some angry, some amused. An old man in a golf cart tipped me $5 and whispered, "About time someone put that woman in her place." The HOA panicked. Emergency meetings. Furious emails. Threats of lawsuits. But they had nothing. No legal standing. No case. So Denise did what entitled people always do when the world doesn't bow. She sued me. The lawsuit accused me of obstruction, psychological sabotage, and my personal favorite, malicious privatization of communal infrastructure. My attorney, a razor-sharp woman named Harriet Voss, read the suit, sipped her tea, and said, "Let's counter. Hard." And we did. We filed for destruction of private property, unauthorized demolition, and civil damages. We valued the bridge, documented my labor hours, and included missed parcel deliveries due to the creek crossing being gone. The filing was delivered during the next HOA board meeting, right into Denise's manicured hands. According to my source on the inside, she nearly choked on her rose. When the case hit court, Denise tried to portray me as a bitter old man with a vendetta. Harriet smiled and played a video of Denise toasting by the creek as my bridge lay in splinters behind her. The judge stared, unblinking. "You authorized this demolition?" he asked. "I was protecting the community," she said. Harriet calmly pointed out the lack of any HOA vote, permit, or legal justification. She slid over their bylaws. The judge raised one eyebrow so high I thought it might vanish into his scalp. "You destroyed a private bridge on private land without permission?" Denise didn't answer. I won. The court awarded full damages, legal costs, and recognition of my ownership of the toll road. When I walked out of that courtroom, I felt 20 years younger. The fallout was delicious. Residents began openly questioning the HOA. Flyers appeared calling for her removal. At the next meeting, she was suspended by majority vote. Her power vanished like a dropped curtain. Meanwhile, I proposed a settlement, dropped my punitive damages if they apologized publicly and paid for a new bridge, my design, my specs. They agreed. The new bridge was a marvel. Reclaimed oak, iron balustrades, solar lights, gargoyles on each end. I named them Denise and Leonard, her spineless husband. A plaque read, "Rebuilt by the HOA, sponsored by Consequences." Denise spiraled. She protested the gate. I handed out lawn chairs and popcorn. She vandalized signs. I posted her on the gate cam with the caption "Caught in the Wild." She tried to sabotage the wiring. I caught her on camera and added her to the pay-in-person list. Eventually, she vanished. Her Range Rover sat unmoved for weeks. One day, a for sale sign appeared. Then a moving truck. Then nothing. I bought her house quietly, through a proxy. I turned it into a vacation rental. Bridgeview Getaway. Pet-friendly, creek-facing, HOA-free. Each guest book included a note. "Ask your host about the bridge." The neighborhood changed. The new HOA president, Jeremy, invited me to speak at meetings. I became less the villain and more a folk hero. We held a bridge appreciation day. Little kids named the gargoyles. One neighbor brought me brownies and apologized for ever siding with Denise. I built a bench in the middle of the new bridge, carved with a final message. Never start a war with someone who builds bridges for a living. And that, my friend, is the art of reclaiming peace, not through revenge, but with precision, patience, and just the right amount of pettiness.